Welcome, everyone. This is the Success Elevated Podcast. My name is Hayden Lee. I'm going to be hosting today, and I'm here with Katie Harris, managing partner, I'm phrasing it correctly, managing partner of Get Found First and Spot On Solutions.
Hey, how you doing, Hayden?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is like super fun for me.
Well, I hope you say that at the end of this as well.
I hope I do too, because I'm not used to being on this side of things, but it's really fun for me to be on this podcast, which I know has kind of been a dream and something that's happening now.
We've wanted to start it for a long time, and it's kind of just now come to fruition the last few weeks, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work, but I think I don't know. It's been really cool to be a part of it and to, what we do for work with marketing. We get to meet and talk to some really, really cool people. And I think we're kind of laying the groundwork with these first few episodes to talk about why we get to meet and talk to so many cool people. And
it's really one of my favorite things that we get to do. Yeah. Like, I've always loved telling people stories, but now every day we're a part of their stories, and it's fun every single day.
Totally.
But there's always parts to them that I didn't know. Like when you're talking to Kenyon and Jake, I didn't know parts of their story, and I was like, well, neither did I love that.
And I spend a lot of time with Jake with the chamber, and it's one of the cool things about podcasting that I think it brings a lot of information out that people don't know about. I like that it's a casual conversation like this, and that we can learn a lot about each other. And
everybody has a story.
Yeah, totally. Stories are a big part of marketing. Your story is super unique for a lot of reasons. I say that about all the guests, but your story is unique. How does an individual with a journalism degree start two, 8-figure marketing companies? How does that? It seems like in my dumb analytical brain a huge leap. So like, how does that happen? How does one go about doing something like that and making such a jump? To me, it seems in different degrees, different majors, stuff like that.
First of all, I never in a million years planned to own a business.
Okay.
I didn't. I've always loved to work. Like even when I was a little girl, I loved to work so much. My dad was a service manager of a Tunex, like a car repair shop, right?
Yeah.
And he'd have to drive like 2.5 hours every few months to go to these big meetings. And I remember just being a little girl and begging him to go with him. I just wanted to go to work so bad. I wanted to be in the office, and he would spoil me sometimes, and I'd get a notebook and a pen, and he'd park me on the floor in this receptionist's office, and I would just work. And I've always loved to work, but I never thought I'd own a business. Got into journalism, like you said. Love telling people stories. Love the editorial side of journalism. Love the advertising side of journalism. And then I just fell in love with digital. And here we are.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't think that they would have a lot to do with each other, but a huge part of marketing, like you had mentioned, is telling someone's story. And we do it through the digital space, but you can do it a bunch of different ways. And journalism, you tell those stories through the news and through newsprint and online articles, and you can kind of do that with marketing as well. And I think that's, kind of how you became connected with Michael, at least initially. Michael we had on last week and talked about the infancy of starting a business and what it takes to do that. And he mentioned, a cool story with you coming to work with him initially, and how...
Speaking of infancy, like he was a baby when we started this.
We were talking about it. You're coming up on 10 years of being in business together.
Yeah.
Michael's only 32. So like 10 years, like he really was like a kid. Like he was a kid fresh off of, a church mission, and somehow figured out how to start a company. And
he was so smart. Like he knew digital.
I love Michael. I don't think he's here without you. And he admitted that. He said surrounding himself with good people is a huge part of where he is today. And I think obviously the first step of that was you and your guys' connection initially. What did that first look like? Those sleepless nights talking about starting businesses.
So one of the things I've always believed in is like, if you see something you want it, just go get it. Like I can't tell you how many times I've got myself into something just because before I knew it, I was speaking up. It's how I got into journalism. So many times I find myself in the middle of something because I was just like, I raised my hand, I volunteered, I was like, I'm gonna try that out. And I remember Michael and I were working on a community project together, and I loved what he was doing with digital. I thought it was so smart. I thought everything with traditional media was going that way. I was so hungry to be a part of that. And he was just killing himself, working so hard. He was seeing some great success. But I remember I followed him out of a meeting one day and I was like, you should hire me. And he's 22 years old, right? I was not 22 years old. I had 3 kids. We were just in totally different stages of our life. But I was like, you should hire me. And he was like, yeah, I should. And that started it. We did that, for several months together until I was just like, man, this is not what I want to do. This is like, if I'm going to work with somebody and they're going to trust me with their business, they're going to trust me, I always say with their baby, right? So entrepreneurs work really hard to build businesses and then they hand their baby over to a marketing company and say, help me grow it. Like, I was just like, we're not doing it. And I don't feel good about what we're delivering and I'm not going to do this anymore. And Michael's like, you're right. Let's go out and do it right. Let's go out and do it on our own. And that started it. And then we were just off to the races and we just started digging in with what we knew was right. Like, how do you take care of people? And just this real passion for helping somebody else grow their business, hearing their story, hearing their goals, and then knowing that we had the answers for it, that we knew how to go do that. It was so much fun. And it was like this massive kind of adrenaline rush when you're doing it and somebody's telling you what's happening with their business. It was so much fun. And my poor family. So when I sat him down and I was like, we're going to go start this business, right? Michael and I are going to start our own agency. And I had a kid in elementary school, a kid in junior high, and a kid in high school. And I was like, and I'm going to need your help. Like, we're all in this. And they supported every little thing all along the way. Matter of fact, my youngest son actually thought for a while I was working less than I ever had because he just didn't know I was working like all night long sometimes. But it was fun. And along the way, we've just met the most amazing people who had the most amazing stories. And to be a part of that has been fun. One of those people was Derek. We were doing marketing for his restoration company. Derek's one of our partners at Spot On Solutions. And he started referring people to us. And pretty soon the entrepreneur in him was like, wait a minute, like, let's do this for restoration companies, right? And he's like, they have the same problems. Let's like go solve it for them. So 2 months after starting our first company, we started a second one and they just took off together.
That's really cool. You mentioned a couple things there that I think are really important, and I want to hit on for anybody that's listening that's wanting to start a business or that currently has a business. And Michael mentioned this last week that yes, sales is a huge part of starting any kind of business. Doesn't matter what it is, marketing, whatever. But you have to have a good product. I think Jake said it too, but you have to believe in your product. Sales will not work if your product is not good. And you have to believe that you are truly going to help people with your product. And marketing is telling stories. It's helping people get found, through the internet or whatever it might be. But you have to believe that that your product is actually going to help those people. That's the only way sales and your business is going to grow.
And you have to want them to succeed. It is the most fulfilling thing to see somebody who's maybe said, oh, the last 3 marketing companies I've worked with ripped me off, or this didn't work.
It's a daily thing said to us. Yeah.
It is such a common thing. Like, it didn't work. I got ripped off. They lied to me. And then all of a sudden when they're like, thank you, right? Or we just hired 3 new people, or, hey, I need to increase my budget. Like, it is the coolest thing when you can see like something you're doing really make a difference. You're not just making a difference in a business, right? It's not some just business without a name. It's somebody's dream. It's some other entrepreneur that's put everything they have into building something and everything they have into helping their family, be more successful. And they're building something, taking care of all their employees, right? And it is the most fulfilling thing to be like, I just solved that problem for them, or they're more successful because of this little tiny piece that we were able to play in it.
Yeah. The thing with it, like I said, it's a daily thing that we get told. That I've worked with 2 or 3 previous companies that just either didn't know what they were doing, they weren't honest with me, they didn't communicate with me, and marketing is such a core part of of helping a business grow, like sales is, like believing in your product, but you have to be able to market yourself. And I think a lot of people do it without even thinking. They'll go out and build relationships with people, and especially, what a lot of my day consists of is like the restoration industry, helping restoration companies, plumbing companies, construction companies, stuff like that. A lot of those guys do really well with relationships,
Right.
but they don't do a great job of like the digital space. And that's kind of what we've been able to help people figure out, is how to grow their business through the internet and through building a nice website and having a good social media presence and things like that. And it's cool that obviously your guys' product has been so good, even a decade ago, that you were able to not only bring on more clients, but convince one of your clients that, hey, like we could do this and help a specific industry. Like, let's start another company and help a specific industry.
It's like crazy to grow two companies at the same time.
It's ridiculous.
And honestly, we really expected that our more general agency would way outpass our niche one, right? We just thought niche would always be smaller. And for the first, 8 years, they grew at exactly the same rate because it was just offering a service that really needed to be provided. And this is what I think when you're talking about entrepreneurs and getting started and providing a good service. Like, I think any great business that knows why they're doing what they're doing, they know what that purpose is, they're super clear on it, that makes all the difference, right? They're going to have the good service. They're going to be that type of business you want to work with. For us, when we were finally, it took a long time. We didn't do this. I mean, I wish we'd have done this way earlier in our business, but we had some really great mentors that helped us learn, like, what is your purpose? Like, why do you get up and do this every day? What's going to drive it? Because at some point you're going to get tired. So why do you do it? And we worked really hard to explain and articulate that. And we put it into words. We're like, well, we elevate people and businesses. And when we even just were able to articulate it, we're like, yeah, that's what we do. And yeah, a lot of the time we do that through digital marketing. But when, as soon as you know why you do what you do, I think you're the best at it, because it's just now all of a sudden it's fueled by passion.
Yeah. It's a phrase that I throw around a lot with my clients is it's easy to market for awesome companies. And I truly believe that I have really awesome clients that have awesome companies. And it's easy for me as a marketer to help them grow their business if they're awesome at what they do. Right. And I truly believe that. And yeah, digital is a big part of what we do. But like you said, ultimately our goal is to elevate people and their businesses. So however we can help them do that, we're going to figure out how to do it.
Love it.
Yeah. Just the other day, like we were talking, we have a client here locally in town. There's a billboard in town. We were able to help facilitate, we don't necessarily make more money or anything like that, but that we thought, hey, that's a great way. Let's get you on that billboard. Stuff like that is just another way that, we truly try to help elevate those people in their businesses. But Michael and I talked a lot about scaling your business through sales and how you have to be motivated to want to sell your company and sell your business. A big part of what you do on day to day, and obviously I've kind of met you towards the last part of
You're
these
in
10
year
years.
10. You
I'm
meet
in
me
year
in year 10.
But a big part of what you do on day-to-day basis is building a successful team. Again, going back to the purpose, elevating people and businesses, you want to try and elevate your team as well. That's a huge part of how someone can scale their business. How have you found the best way, I should say, to scale a business through building a team?
Right. You know what? It was really funny because our team grew fast. Yeah. We went from working out of a bedroom at my house, and then just a couple of people to all of a sudden we had, 10, 15 people. And we looked around and all of a sudden it was like, oh man, like how do you build a team? And I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs, that is one of the hardest times that hits, because a couple things are happening. Number one, you have to let go of things you're used to doing. And it's hard to let go of things you love, right? It's hard to let go of something you've been doing on a day-to-day basis and trust somebody else can come and do it. And so you gotta build this team and let go of things you've been doing, but then you've got to understand your team. And that's just a different dynamic. Because our team grew so fast, it became a massive pain point. And it was like, oh my gosh, like it was so funny because I remember one time we sent out a memo and we thought, we were being really professional, and we sent out some memo and we just freaked everybody out. Like our whole team, we didn't think it was a big deal. And they were like, what is this? What's going on? And we're like, why are you freaking out? And then it was just a little bit later, somebody's like, well, do you know everybody's personality styles? And I was like, no. Like, do you know your personality style? And I'm like, kind of, but not really, And so I got really obsessed with this idea of understanding personalities. And the first thing we did, our good friend, Justin Sifford, he owns Wylander. Him and his wife, Christy, run Wylander. And Justin is DISC certified and is a personality consultant. So I go and I talk to him and I'm like, Justin, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, will you help me with this? And he's like, yeah, you bet. And he comes in and we do DISC assessments for our whole team. And he comes back and he's like, this is crazy. And if you're familiar with DISC, there's 4 personality styles. There's a dominant, there's an influential, steady, and consistent. So DISC. And you got your D and your I that are really outgoing, your S and your C's that are more reserved. And comes back and he's like, there's like 3 people that are DIs, right? If you got this quadrant, the DIs are up here at the top. It's like, there's like 3 people. And it was me, Michael, and Derek, right? And then he's like, the rest of our team, every single person we had hired, complete different opposite personalities than us. And I still think it's crazy that we hired, like, our blind spots, the things we were bad at, we unintentionally went out and hired people that were really, really good at them. And then, and as soon as we understood that, it changed everything for us. And I started to understand, what are my personality strengths and what are my blind spots? And then I started to understand theirs better. And it was like, we went from feeling so disconnected as a team and probably really frustrated with each other a lot of the times to just totally like in sync and getting each other, just because we started understanding personalities. So I became obsessed with it and a huge believer.
Well, yeah. And just in the short time that, I've been apart, I've become a huge believer as well. Personality tests, there's a million of them. And it's a lot of, several of the jobs that I had before I came to work here would give out a personality quiz during the hiring process. You complete it, never hear about it again, never see it again. It never comes up somewhere down the road during work. I don't think I've gone a day since starting here that we haven't talked about personality styles.
Right.
And the reason is because it's so helpful to know how to interact with your employees, to how to interact with a supervisor, if you know what their personality is. Right. You can know how best to help them, how best that they're going to try and help you, how to give them praise, how not to, give them criticism. It's this huge all-encompassing thing that can really help your team become more successful, is if you just understand who your team is and what their strengths and weaknesses are. It sounds super simple, but I think it's super underutilized across a lot of different industries. But really, I think it's underutilized in the marketing space. I think it's super helpful to know, how best you can help people by understanding their personalities.
Well, one of the very first things we train on, this, like it happens, I think, in the first week of training.
Yep.
When we're understanding personality styles, and we talk about like biggest fears for every personality style. If you understand your team, your coworkers, your teammates, your clients, and you have a clue what their personality is, and then you understand what their biggest fear is, like their biggest fear is being taken advantage of, man, the quicker you can settle that fear and put that to bed, the faster you can start really making things work together.
Totally. Yeah. Without spending too much time on it, it's really become something that I think about daily. I think about it with my clients. Obviously, it'd be weird if I just started sending them personality quizzes, but it helps me understand, okay, I think maybe, John Doe is this personality style. Maybe I can try some different ways of communicating with him to help him understand. Or
well, we get so self-aware, right? Because
totally.
When you're doing that, you're also being like super self-aware of yourself and how you're communicating and how you're coming across when you know that. So
how can I better communicate? How can I better help these people?
I didn't get into it intentionally. It was totally out of like, I'm drowning. Which is, I think, what we do so often in business. Like, I have no idea how to do this, right? I got to figure it out, and I got to figure it out fast. It was really funny when Google came to our office one time. They asked us, like, well, who's in charge of sales? Who's in charge of the team? And we were just like, we all do it, we just all do everything. And you hear entrepreneurs say this all the time, like, I wear a lot of hats. I wear all the hats. And we do. We wear all the hats. Sometimes we wear all the hats though, because we choose to wear all the hats, right? Sometimes we wear them because we have to. I'm not saying that. It's super hard to balance everything. But Google said to us, like, you got to have swimming lanes. Like, somebody's got to be in charge of sales. Somebody's got to be in charge of building the team. Somebody's got to be in charge of fulfillment. You can all help each other, but you got to have swim lanes. And I remember the first time they said that to us, it seemed so impossible. It was like, I don't even know how you get started with that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to feel the same way. They're like, I can't let go of this. Like, it was really hard for me to let go of doing sales on a daily basis, because I love sales, right? It was hard to be like, okay, I'm going to step back from that. It's not going to be what I do all day, every day. It's not going to be my main priority. Somebody else is going to put the full focus on that. And as soon as we did that, I was shocked. And it was a process for sure. And we're not perfect at it yet, but we do know different responsibilities, and we have had to kind of force ourselves to let go of some things. And the speed at which you can grow at that point is crazy to me.
Yeah. Kenyon talked about this. The first episode, we had Kenyon Martin on. I asked him kind of what his day looks like now that Restore Right's got 25 plus employees or whatever. What does his day to day look like? And he's like, back in the day, I was on the front lines, project managing and helping clean carpets when he was, doing that. But he's like, now my day is focused on helping my team be better. And I think that's similar to you, and where you're at and where, Michael's at. You guys are really focused now. You might have less to do with the fulfillment side or less to do with the day-to-day managing of a PPC campaign or something, but your real focus is like, okay, how do I build a team? How do I hire people that are going to be on board with this
right.
and want to dream big like we do? And that's a huge part of, as far as the day-to-day goes.
Right. I had a really great mentor one time that said, when you're leading a team, like, there's 3 things you should focus on. 1 is set the vision. 2, build the team. And 3, secure the cash. Like, those are the things that have to get done. And so, that I always am reminding myself of that in my day to day. I'm like, am I setting the vision? Am I building the team? And am I securing the cash? Those are the things that have to be done. The other things, quite frankly, I found, like, there's people that are a lot better at them than I ever was, right? And so while letting go can be hard, and we can be tempted to say they're not going to do it as good as me, they might not do it the same as you, right? That's true. But letting go can be hard, but as soon as you do, you find, man, so much more capacity. And people are so good when you just give them the space and the trust to go do it.
It doesn't make sense for an entrepreneur. I'm not an entrepreneur, but my brain is like,
oh,
nope.
You got entrepreneur blood.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
But like in my brain, I'm like, if I want it done how I want it done, I gotta go do it. But it seems like in all these stories that I've been talking to people and being on kind of the front line, meeting with different business owners every day, when you finally start delegating, it seems like some real growth starts taking place.
Yeah.
When you're willing to look inward and say, okay, either I don't have the time for this, or there are people that are better at it. More importantly, there are people that are better at it than I am. I'm going to let them handle it. Your company really, it can take your company to the next level, to use that cliche term, but it really can elevate you.
It requires, like, you got to check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
And we're entrepreneurs, right? Like, we're not doing what we're doing because we didn't think we were going to be good at it. So you got to check your ego at the door, and you got to give people room to go do what they do.
That's really cool. I want to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to come back to a lot of this stuff because, you've added one more thing onto the end of your name, which is author Katie Harris. But we'll talk about that in a sec. I want to talk about, so we've kind of mentioned Spot On Solutions, Get Found First. Get Found First is, they're both marketing companies. Spot On Solutions is kind of this niche We really focus on restoration companies, cleaning companies, construction, plumbing, those home service type companies. And Get Found First handles virtually everything else. Any other business you can think of, Get Found First is doing marketing for it. Home services is really a male-dominated industry. Most people that own home service companies are men, and you've really been able to help build a company in an industry dominated by men. What has that been like for you as a woman in the industry? Have there been? I'm sure there've been times that you felt a little run over, maybe is a bad term, but like you feel like you're getting steamrolled a little bit. I don't know. What has it been like, and how have you learned to just kind of let it roll off your shoulders, I guess, for lack of a better term?
Good question. I'm actually in two male-dominated industries because
when you think of both,
tech is really pretty male-dominated still.
Yep.
And then restoration, has historically been pretty male-dominated. I've been like super impressed over the last several years to see how many women in restoration are just making an impact. Like there's some crazy smart, successful women in restoration, and it's been really fun to be a part of it. Yeah, you want to talk about checking your ego at the door? Check your ego at the door sometimes, There's been times we've been, at trade shows or at events, and some owners will want to talk to a man. And at first, like, I'm not going to lie, because Derek will call me on it if I do, but it was hard for me, and I'd get mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I realized, probably when I started understanding personalities better, I'm like, so what? Yeah. So what? And I've also found that when you add value, right? A lot of times a gut reaction is to connect with somebody you feel like you have something in common with. That's really more it than the man-woman thing, right? We immediately identify with people we think we have things in common with. I don't really focus that much on the difference between men and women. Yeah. I think that it doesn't bother me anymore. I don't really feel like that discrimination is there necessarily when you are just connecting with people and understanding people. So I don't know. I don't know if that answers it for you.
No, it does. It's super helpful for me to understand. Yeah, because you're right. It's not just the restoration industry. Tech is a big one too. But yeah, I think you do a great job of not focusing on that. And I think if you focused on it too much, I think you could get caught in the weeds, and you would,
because you know me, it'd make me crazy.
Yeah, it would drive you nuts. Well, and deservedly so. It should drive you nuts occasionally when some of the comments that you receive.
I think sometimes when you're looking for it or when you're expecting it, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't look for it, and I don't really see it. And honestly, I don't see. There's some women in restoration that are powerhouses right now.
Totally.
I don't see them being treated any differently or with any less respect, probably mostly because they've just earned it, right? Yeah. And maybe they have to work harder to earn it. That's probably fair. Yeah. I think that anytime you're in an industry where you're the minority, you work harder to earn it. And that's okay.
Yeah, it's totally okay. And I think, at least I hope, people are getting better at recognizing what an individual's worth is based on their work ethic or, how well their business is running, whatever it might be, instead of, their gender or whatever, whatever else they might judge people on. But I think you do a great job of just, and I think this is a lesson for not necessarily man versus woman or anything, but I think this is a lesson in general. Like, people are going to have their perception of you. People are going to think of you what they will. And so you can either let it affect you and let it bother you, or you can just move on and try and be a better person yourself and then let them stress about stuff.
And you're going to connect with some people better than other people for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
What I think people have to be really careful of is that they never use any of those for excuses. Excuses to be less, or excuses to justify something, or excuses to complain. Like, whatever the difference is, whatever it is, just overcome it. Look past it.
Yeah, don't use it as an excuse. Totally. If you sat around and did that, I mean, nothing would ever be accomplished if you just made up excuses to why this person isn't a client of ours or this person won't work with me or whatever it might be. Thanks for letting me go off on my tangent a little
Yeah,
bit.
you bet.
I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that. I know.
I'll educate you on women in business anytime. So
Thank
you want to
you.
talk women in business, Hayden? I'll teach you all about
Listen,
it.
I need to learn something. Okay. No, I really appreciate that. That's good information, I think, for me, and I think just for everyone in general. Yeah. Not necessarily the man versus woman thing. It might be something completely, totally different. You're a minority, or maybe you just always are thinking about what people think of you. Don't just let it roll off your shoulders. Don't care. Like,
I think that at the end of the day, show value in whatever that looks like, right? Like if you're showing value for something or for someone, everything else falls away.
yeah, believe in
So,
yourself and don't worry.
Do whatever you can to step into any situation and bring value to it. Make somebody else better and watch what happens.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, I said I'd come back to it.
Okay.
Let's talk about uncommon results a little bit. I know that the full title is much longer, but let's talk about uncommon results. You are now a published author.
Yes.
How does it feel? What made you want to write a book? And what was that process like? And what do you think is so unique about maybe your story that felt like you wanted to share that with others?
So, I got journalism blood, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
you
where
got some writing blood.
my
Yeah.
roots are in journalism. So I've always loved writing, and the idea of writing a book has just been a dream, been really fascinating to me. I was really lucky several months ago when a mentor, a business coach we'd worked with before at Spot On Solutions, reached out and said, "Hey, we're writing this book about uncommon results, secrets and strategies of successful entrepreneurs, and we want you to contribute a chapter." So I didn't write a whole book. I wrote a chapter, but I wrote it with a lot of other really smart, really smart, successful entrepreneurs. And so that's how that happened. He just reached out and he's like, "Hey, I think your story works great on this. Come contribute to Uncommon Results and write this chapter." And so that's what I was able to do. And it's been fascinating to learn about the publishing process and how you write a book and what that looks like. And so working on book number 2, fully written by myself right now, because it was just such a cool experience.
That's really sweet. I think I know what makes us unique, but what makes these companies, Get Found First and Spot On Solutions, what makes our results uncommon, do you think, the last decade?
You know what? I think that in the very beginning, when they were started, just purely out of a desire to help people, like that's never changed. Now it's like on a big mural in our office, elevating people and businesses. We all say it all the time. And I don't know that that's really uncommon. I think everybody sets out to do that, but we're 10 years in, and I think we've held true to that every step of the way. And we do it with the people we work with, but I'm just really proud of what we do with our own team. Like, to me, it's been extremely fulfilling to have people that have been here since the very beginning still here. I love that. I love people who started with us, who maybe didn't ever see a career for themselves, thought they were just an hourly employee, that didn't have a road. And now all of a sudden to be leading teams and to be just different people because of that growth. Like I think it's uncommon to have teams that stay together for 10 years, right? And that are just always getting better and that are rooting for each other.
That's sweet. I would agree. I think that's uncommon too. And that's what I think attracted me to working for a company like this, for companies like these that's such a huge emphasis.
Well, I loved when I was interviewing you in the beginning, right? And you have a degree in engineering. And I was like, engineering to marketing, how do you get there? But I knew, like, man, you're going to like this culture. You're going to be good at this. And so I love that kind of resonated.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Engineering is cool and it's interesting. And it's why I got a degree in it. Cause I really do. I think there's a lot of cool aspects to engineering, but I felt that there was lacking a culture that ultimately, I love helping people reach their potential. And that's, I think, what attracted me about here. And I think marketing is a vehicle for that. I didn't necessarily, in that interview process, like, oh yeah, marketing, that, I love to look at data all day. That wasn't necessarily, but I was attracted to the idea of, yeah, I get an opportunity to talk to different people every day and help them and their businesses be better.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of what I try to do. Life is about progression, and I want to be better today than I was yesterday, even if it's just a little bit. I want to look back and say, hey, I'm better today than I was yesterday. I'm better. I hope I'm better tomorrow than I am today. I don't want to be the same person tomorrow that I am today. So as long as I'm progressing, I'm succeeding. And that's what was so attractive about coming to a work environment that has the same aspirations that I do. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It kind of made me think of a story back. It was several years ago, and we were actually doing like kind of an after hours Q&A with our whole team. This is before you were even here. And they were just asking us questions, right? Our team was asking us questions and we were answering them and trying to be like really open. And it was super fun. And somebody asked us, hey, what did you think about, or what did you do when it got hard and you wanted to quit? Like when you were ready to give up, like, what did you do? And I remember that question like surprised me. And I was like, it was the first time I realized I'd never thought about giving up or quitting. Like it never had even occurred to me that was maybe an option. Right. And so this idea to just grow and be big and have this culture that made a difference for people. Like we've just been so busy doing that the idea of quitting, I was like, that was never even a thought. I didn't even really realize that was an option, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, Uncommon Results. Say the full title again.
Okay. Uncommon Results, Secrets and Strategies of Highly Successful Entrepreneurs.
Where can people find the book?
And that is available on iBook and Amazon.
Sweet. Then go buy it right now. Go check it out. You're not only going to find some great insights from Katie about her growth in marketing and things like that, but sounds like there's insights from all sorts of great individuals.
Right.
And I'm excited to read it. I think it'll be really cool. Katie, I want to end with the 3 big questions that I ask everybody. It was supposed to be rapid fire, but I think I get a lot of good information out of it, so I don't want it to be rapid fire anymore. So I'm going to stop calling it rapid fire questions.
All right, good. That takes some of the pressure off.
3 questions that I'm going to ask all of my guests. First question, you've mentioned one book that you have written a chapter in, but what is a book or podcast right now that you're listening to that you feel like has been super helpful lately?
Okay. You know what? I have preached this for a long time, but I'm so in love with the book Atomic Habits. I've probably reread it like 3 times just because like that 1% better, like I've implemented it and I just recommend it to everybody. Go do it. Go do Atomic Habits. So I think that's awesome. Another one, and this one is like hardcore. I'm just into it right now, but it's like this big. It's like, I don't know. 8,000 pages. It's huge, but the book Life Force that Tony Robbins just put out, like super interesting, really compelling.
Okay, Tony Robbins, Life Force, and Atomic Habits.
Yep.
Those sound like great options. I've heard a lot about Atomic Habits. It's on my reading list. I've got so many books. This podcast has woken me up to how much I don't read, and I got to get better at it.
Love it.
Second question. When, a long day or a long week, how does Katie recharge and refocus after, a long day or a long week?
Okay. First of all, I am like an introvert at heart, right?
Okay.
Perfect.
You're an introvert masquerading as an extrovert?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally. Perfect Saturday to me though is just sleep in and stay home and veg. If my husband's going to go hunting or fishing, I'm like, have fun. Like totally, like if I'm going to recharge, I love to do that. But what makes me really happy, what I do that just brings me like true joy is I have 2 little grandkids and they live clear across the United States in New York. But one of my very favorite things to do is FaceTime with them and, get to talk to them. I think this digital age is so fun because they see me on the portal or on Facebook and we're just able to interact like normal. Right. And so that brings me like the most joy.
That's awesome. That's a great way to recharge. Michael mentioned, family. It's a huge part of how I think a lot of people do it. And I think you have to set boundaries with work and and say, okay, I'm going to go home and just spend time with my family. I'm going to shut my phone off or whatever it takes, but
So I don't know.
finding a way to do it.
Like one of the very first things when Michael and I were like, hey, let's just like break off. Like we can do this on our own. And I'd mentioned that we were in totally different stages of life, right? He was 22, newly married. I had 3 kids and a husband. Totally just different stages of life. And the thing I said to him is I said, okay, we can do this, but just so you know, my family will always come first. And he's like, yeah, sure, of course, no problem, right? Having no idea what that really meant at that point in time, although he honored it completely every step of the way, because there was times that I was like, I can't do that. Matter of fact, the very first time we got invited to go to Google in San Francisco, which was a total pinch me moment, right? And Google had invited us out and one of our clients out. And it turned out that my daughter ended up playing in the championship for district tournament, district tournament for tennis that day. She was a senior in high school. And I remember I said to Michael, I'm like, I can't go. Like Google had paid for the trip. I'm like, I can't go. It's like, what do you mean you can't go? I'm like, you know what? If I look back in 10 years from now, nobody at Google is going to remember if I was there or not. But 10 years from now, my daughter looks back, she'll remember that I was not at her district tournament. And he's like, you're right. And so I skipped my first trip to Google to go watch freezing cold high school tennis, right? But best decision ever. So that family first mentality has just been who we are from the very beginning and always honored. And now we're switched, right? My kids are all out of the house and I have grandkids and Michael's got little teeny babies. And I think now he gets it even more, but just a part of who we are.
That's awesome. Last question. If you could rewind the clock 10 years, if you could rewind a decade and talk to 10 years younger Katie about this whole journey, what's one thing that you would tell yourself? I'm sure there's a million things you would tell yourself, but if you could narrow it down to one thing, what would it be?
Ooh. I didn't know that was one of the questions, Hayden.
It's a curveball I like to throw at people.
Wait a minute.
On.
I thought I knew all the not so rapid fire questions. One thing I tell myself is, boy, don't be so hard on yourself, right? Like you guys joke with me all the time that I don't know how to shut my brain off, and you'll see late night slacks from me or different things. It's because I'm always like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And something gets done. And even if it's awesome, I'm already thinking what could be next or what could have been better. I think I'd maybe, hey, stop for just a minute and enjoy some successes and don't be so self-critical about things.
That's awesome. That's a huge thing that I think gets we push ourselves too hard. Yeah. Ultimately, I think we're our own worst enemy at times, and I think we've got to look and say, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. Be patient. I can't remember if it was Jake or Kenyon, but they said the thing they would tell themselves is just to be patient and don't be so hard on yourself. And I think that's great advice.
I think there's one part where, hey, being just driven and always going is great, but to kind of like stop for a minute and be like, that was good enough. That was good enough.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me a little bit. We talk a lot every day about big ideas we've got with different clients or whatever it might be, or just ideas for the company. But it was really cool to sit down and have a little bit more in-depth conversation with your journey through this whole process. You bet. And I really appreciate you humoring me a little bit and chatting with me.
Hey, thanks for being a dreamer with me. Like you're so fun, because if I do have big ideas, which, can scare people off a little bit, but you're like, let's go. So thanks for jumping on board.
Well, I'm excited for more big ideas in the future. So
love it.
Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Hayden.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe on any major podcast platform or check out our website at successonpoint.com.